What's up, guys? Quasi here, Quasi Media Network, Quasi Animation Studio. So, I want to show you some tricks. We're going to do a few little things, go from there. Turn this down a little bit more. Not sure how loud it is for you, but for me, it's kind of loud. All right. Excuse me. All right. So, we have a general scene here. It's just a little corridor with some lights in it, and my guy from the dystopian journal, Oxara. So, this is Oxara himself. All right. Of course, you can see, we'll go back to playback. This is what it looks like. He has a walk cycle on him. He's just walking down the hallway. But I want to focus on shot choices. So I'm just animating this in the layout rather than in the animation tab. So kind of just put something together real quick. All right, so this is what I want to show. All right, so we already have the camera in one space. So it's back here, okay? And of course, he's way up here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go over to the transformation tab. And I'm sorry. I say transformation, but object data properties, or object properties. I'm going to click the camera, and we already have everything set. So I'm going to keyframe the location and rotation, and then internal auto key. All right, so I'm going to say it about 80 frames, so less than, well, just a little bit over 2 seconds. I'm going to push it forward. Okay, so I'm going to push it forward on the Y. You get so close, and then once it gets to that point, we're going to try to figure out a different way to go about doing it. So I'm going to go back to the action editor real quick, hit V and vector it. Now, so let's just see it play back. See how close it gets. Okay, so he's going to still be walking. But what I want to do is draw in. So as I draw in, I'm going to go all the way to 190. And then I'm going to just make my adjustments. Right, okay, let's see. Is it the same way here? Yeah. All right. So again, vector it. And there's a reason for that. All right. So on the camera, the depth of field, I have an empty that's locked to his head, as we see. Right. Okay. So it's locked. It's a child of it. Okay. And then taking this camera, and of course, like I said, the depth of field is on, but it's at 1.7. So I'm using 102 millimeter focal length, but the actual camera sensor I'm using is an ARRI Alexa 65. So let's watch it play back. And it'll slowly go in and get closer and closer as he gets closer, right? So I feel like that didn't get close enough. So let's make it a little bit closer. All right, so right about there should be okay. Should be okay. All right, so what I want to do is go over to the camera's focal length, and at 80, I'm going to add a keyframe. This time I'm going to go back to the dope sheet so I can see all of it. So the focal length is showing. Okay, and all the way to 190, I'm going to change the focal length. So I'm going to bring it down to 65. Okay, now also because I changed it, I will bring this down a little bit and push forward just a little bit more. All right, there we go. And then on the f-stop on the depth of field, I'm going to keyframe that also, and then go to 190, and I'm going to take it to 3. Okay. Well, no, 2.7. All right. So let's watch that in the playback tab. And let's see the effect. Yeah, I like that. So on the last frame on the camera, I'm going to get closer. All right, there we go. Okay, playback. Yeah, I like that. It's not bad. Okay, so this is about making choices on your shots and then figuring out what really truly would work best. So let's say if we wanted this shot to be something different, maybe you would want to follow him or whatnot. So like again, in the other video about camera tricks, we would deal with damp tracking, or doing a damp track on the camera itself, and then making that damp track follow the actual head of the character. So let's do that right now. to give the shot a little something different. All right, so we'll go to his head, right? Okay, so it's gonna alter it minor, but I'm just gonna bring it down some because I don't want it to completely. So on the influence, I'll bring it down a little bit. And then let's watch the playback. Don't forget to save. So now it gives a little bit of the bounce with his head. And this way now we have that little bit of motion that comes in without having to animate it ourselves. So again, it's, just creating a shot. So again, as the focal length starts to extend from 102 to 65, we get like this tunnel effect behind him that makes it seem a little bit more epic, so to speak. So that's one of the things that I've noticed that a lot of people, when they're making their shorts or whatnot, they're not necessarily doing focal length changes or whatnot, and I'm guilty of that also. If we look at one of the like for instance, the remainder of my upcoming short, Ronin Jawa, it's in that shot. I don't know. I don't want to open it up and get away from this just yet, but in that, let's just open up a second rendition of Blender. And in that, what I do is change the focal length towards the end of the shot. So if I open it up real quick, let's say, right, okay, and I think it was 13, yeah. So let's go to shot 13, it'll be in the playback. And then right here towards the end of that shot, okay, so the end of this shot, the focal length changes. So he grabs a hold of Green Destiny, boom, and then the focal length starts to change. Now watch. You see it pull out, right? So that's one of the things that I wanted to get started doing myself to make sure that to create more of an intensity or drama from the camera, instead of trying to let the character do all the work and all the heavy lifting. My lighting, the atmospherics, all those things have to do the heavy lifting. So if you look at this environment and how it's built, it's a pretty simple environment. Okay, and this right here, this frame, because this is the volume, because go to your object properties and then just make it wire and then wireframe. Okay, and then it'll still give you your volume, but you won't have to worry about trying to click past it or click through it. Right, okay. So that's one of the things I looked at when it came to excuse me, building this shot. Like for instance, these things up here are just did I click it? Yeah. So this is, of course, just a simple, just a light fixture that I did with, the simple texture and a light emission to create the illusion that the light's coming from that, as you clearly see. So it's one of those things about just making simple choices and not worrying about trying to be too detailed in areas that you're not wanting to focus on anyway. Like, you don't want people to focus on a texture that might be a little extra low res because you just need it to be textured so there's not just a lot of white objects in your shot. But understanding how to use the camera accordingly changes the entire scope of things. So that's one of the reasons why, like, I'm like, okay, well, let's go to the focal length, or let's change the f-stop on the aperture to create that feeling. So as it gets closer, there is a 1.7 f-stop on this. So these edges are a little bit blurred, but we get our focal point because it's all drawing to the middle, right? Now when we get here, again, it starts to refine a little bit because we're getting closer to the object because the f-stop is about to change again. And then it changes, and then we get a hard distinction on the character himself. And then here it's the same thing, okay? But now we really got a hard distinction, and that light is specifically now showing more clearly because of that focus. But that's also based on making sure that we're keeping the focal length on him so that he's the basis. Instead you're saying, well, why does the texture on the side look as though? What about the ground? Well, that's not our focal point, nor is the light behind him the focal point. So like say you had a transition shot you wanted to do right here, right? There's a shot you want to do as a transition, which from as it's pulling back, he's still in frame close up because he's closer to the camera than the sides. Even though everything's still in its respective place, that perspective change with the focal length will help you be able to make transitional shots where you can transition from this area to behind him and then pull out with the camera. So you'll pull back on the camera and then go to whatever other shot you want to cut to. So it's that's why like um a lot of films you watch, there are a lot of focal length changes and camera pulls and whatnot, because it creates more intensity, but the characters are still in that same position. So instead of trying to readjust the characters too much, what you want to do is find your shot, make a shot choice that allows you to be able to alter the perspective of the viewer without having to do much with your actual objects and actors. Because once you start doing all that, your camera's not doing any work and they're doing all the heavy work. You know what I'm saying? The actual excuse me. I'm sorry. The actors and the objects in the scene are doing more work than the camera, and the camera really should be doing about 80% of the lifting. Just being honest about it. Your focal length, your aperture, your lens, that should be doing more work than the actor. The actor is only supposed to perform the things that we are there to focus on. But if the camera work and the lighting gives us a direct feed. Again, if we look here, you see here and here he's boxed in. You look around these edges, it's blurred out, but we see him completely. So if we come here, we got a total shot of him. Don't have to worry about anything extra. Excuse me. We can focus directly on him and go, well, what is Oxar about to do? Or where is he going? Is this like his secret lair? Whatever the case is, you have a focal point. And being able to understand how to utilize the camera in that way changes the entire aspect of your shot. Let's say we got rid of all of that, right? So I just went in and let's just say I just got rid of all of that, and you had none of that. Okay, so if I come to I think the action editor and I push it down, right? Go back to the dope sheet because some of this stuff is still up. All right, excuse me, and I go and push that down, right? But what I do is I turn off all of this stuff right here, and I turn off the depth of field. Now let's feel it. We just go through them. That's it. Just got close. See the difference in the feel of that? Doesn't feel the same. I mean, everything is open. It doesn't really give you a notion of any particular thing. And this is what I find that happens to a lot of shots that people are putting up, is that there's no focus. It's just a straight shot. And that shot at its core isn't necessarily bad, but it doesn't give you that same feeling you would have if you have, let's say, the f-stop and the focal length change on it. So let's look at it from that aspect now. Okay, so all that stuff got turned off. I don't know what happened. Did I turn it back on? Oh, I turned the focal length. I'm sorry, my bad. I see what happened. Never mind. Okay, so yeah, I had to turn the depth of field back on. And now that perspective change, it just changes the dynamic of the shot. And that's what I wanted to show you guys today. I don't want to get too far into it. There's more to come. I'll probably try to give you some behind the scenes stuff on my last short, which is Oxara. Let's go check it. All right. And it's this particular one here. Go check that out. Trust me, you get a chance to see a lot of what I'm talking about in reference to depth of field, the shot changes and whatnot. So this is the main channel, Quasi Media Network, and there's a lot to look at, and you get to see me, as I upgrade and come up in the world of animation. So yeah, but nonetheless, that's that for that, and see you around. Nonetheless.